Hello, hello. Can you hear me now? I think you can. Yeah?
Hello.
Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. So nice to have you all here. Congratulations, nominees. Welcome, welcome, everyone. I was going to say take your seats, but everyone is pretty much settled in. It's such an honor to have you here. I really congratulate each and every one of you. If you're here, it's because you are really making a difference. You're really succeeding in your craft and moving forward, and that is something wonderful and that we love to celebrate here at NATA Suncoast Emmy Student Production Award. So welcome. This year we have something very special. For the first time, the Suncoast chapter has launched Meet the Pros, and this is really a unique opportunity that gives you the chance to connect with, to listen to, and learn from these professionals, each one in their field. And I really want you to take advantage of this at the end of our presentation and ask questions, because it's going to be a rare opportunity for you to learn from the pros that we have gathered together today. So this panel brings together 4 accomplished professionals who are going to speak not only about their experience in their respective fields, but they're going to share with you real-world insights into what it takes to succeed in this field, from storytelling to breaking news, AI, and live sports reporting. We're even going to talk about film and documentaries. You're going to learn firsthand from them. So here's how it's going to work. Each professional, like Jim, is going to be seated. We're going to have a quick one-on-one, about 10 minutes. Then we go to the next professional, and then everyone will be available here on the stage to take your questions. So make sure that if you have a question, you definitely ask it. I always tell people, take advantage of the microphone if I give you the space. I do a radio show, and I always tell my listeners that when I open the mics, speak, because freedom of speech or freedom to ask questions is something that's really, really, really special. So anyway, let me welcome Jim Garashi. He's going to be speaking about finding the story where preparation meets discovery. So Jim Garashi is an executive producer at Beacon TV, an educator specializing in storytelling and in production. Today, he is focusing on the importance of planning and pre-production while staying open to unexpected storytelling moments. And welcome, Jim. So good to have you. What a gift and what an honor. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. My name is Jim Garashi. I work for Beacon TV. Beacon is an FCC licensed television station in South Florida, but we're actually owned by the School Board of Broward County. So I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd because I work with a lot of the schools, if not all of the schools, with the bigger programs. But I come from production background. I'm an executive producer at Beacon TV, and I do a bunch of television shows for them. Most of them, pretty much all of them, deal with students in some way.
So here goes the first question for Jim. Because of the angle, right, being prepared before we go out there, how do we balance structure and flexibility when we head out to do a story?
Sure. A lot of students think that journalists just go run out and kind of run to the story and wing it. And I'm always trying to stress to them how there's always a plan involved, and there's pre-production. Like, the people think of film in pre-production, but not necessarily in news, and there's a lot. In breaking stories, there's a lot of calls you're making. You're doing research on the way. You're talking with you if you're going with another person or a producer or a camera person. You're discussing what the story could be, thinking of an angle like you spoke about. And I saw something actually at the Suncoast event that was down in Miami with one of the teachers said, when you go into a story, first thing is it's got to pass the so what test, and it's got to pass the drive-by test. In other words, what's the story here? Why are you going? And then also a nice focus that you could say really quickly as you drive by. So it's, I think I have a quote here, which is really good. I did my pre-production.
Walk the walk.
The best pieces are an inch wide and a mile deep. And I love that idea. So you're really focused on a story. If you try to cover a small topic, do so fully and colorfully as opposed to everything, and that'll be much more impactful.
So a lot of times when reporters are heading out to the field, it's important for them to have, of course, their background, to be making phone calls, as you mentioned, but to be open, perhaps, to that unexpected story. And I think that you have a really clever story that really exemplifies what this conversation is about.
Yeah, so for anyone who's seen my lessons on news story and how to approach them, right? I'm always talking about having a focus to your story, and that's great, and you should. But you need to be open on the better story while you're there. And an example is, I always use this example, someone did a story on pet therapy with therapy dogs, right? Cool. But they actually had a pig there as a pet therapy pig. So I saw that story, and they mentioned it, but as soon as I saw the pig, and I think I said this to you earlier, and you first, yeah, that's the reaction you should have. Yes, you came in with an idea of what your story is, but you're always looking for that pig. That thing that's going to make it special. And if I was on that story, it changed immediately when I saw that pig, and my mind races on how to build that story, right? Maybe I start with what you think it's going to be with dogs, and then all of a sudden, here's that pig, and, with the sound of it and all that, and then it switches, right? Because everyone who sees that pig lights up when they watch that story.
Because it's unexpected.
Exactly. And you have to be the curiosity for your audience, right? So, and sometimes kids and adults, right? They go in with their blinders on, tunnel vision, this is my story, and they miss what the real story is. So yes, you come in prepared, but you're always open and you're curious and you're thinking, what's going to make my story more impactful, more interesting, and more informational, right?
So a lot of times when I was a street reporter, you get the information from a press release. I would write some information that had to go into the story, the stuff that you have to report on. But then when you come in, you could still use that perhaps. Maybe you use it at the end, or maybe you use it in the out, or maybe you use it in an intro. You don't necessarily have to stay tied to that idea. We have to stay open to that flexibility. Tell us some of the mistakes that you see students make that perhaps can hold them back in this area.
Oh, okay. How much time do I have? No, I'm just kidding. Well, students, they don't want to put the work in beforehand. They just want to go do it, and they're missing it, right? I'm always telling kids, and someone in the room will know this quote, 80% of your effort should be in pre-production. Now, I made that stat up, but I want to stress it. Like, if you do the work beforehand, if you do the preparation, if you ask the questions, if you visualize, if you're on the same team with the person you're with, it's always going to be better.
Okay, so how do we do that? Where do we call? What do we do? Imagine here's a student, they're on their way to a story. What do I do?
Oh, okay. Well, great. Let's talk news feature stories.
Like, who do I call? What do I do?
Sure. Obviously, you're discussing with the person you're with, what's the focus or angle of my story, right? How can I narrow this down and make it an interesting story? How can I focus it? Answering those questions that I said, the so what test, the drive-by test. And then I like to also tell them, even the simple stuff, like make lists. You have an equipment list that you go down, check. Raise your hand. No, you don't have to. Probably everyone in this room has forgotten something on a shoot, right? And now when you're brainstorming, you're making lists. I constantly am making lists. On your phone, I don't care. And once you have that one list of your news package equipment, that's great. You go down it, you have everything you need, and then you add to it for that particular story. Kids don't want to do that. I can see kids in this room that I've hounded about making lists for their stories. No offense, Addison. Even just equipment lists. But then also, start thinking, I learned from Boyd Hubert, if you know him, he's an incredible storyteller in Minnesota, yep. He taught the Christmas tree style for your story, right? You've got your trunk, which is your focus that goes all the way through it, and then you have branches and where your story is going to go. I like to call it the ands and buts, right? And this happened, but there was a pig. So you start thinking about what are the possible subtopics of the story that fit the focus. You really start developing, and then take it a step further. Is there a concept I can add to this story to make it even more interesting? Boyd Hubert did a story on these couples that were married for over 50 years. There were 6 couples on the same block that were married for over 50 years. Wow. And they struggled on how can I tie this together. So what he did was, he brought a love seat, him and his camera guy, and they carried it to each house and interviewed the people on this love seat. And they had shots of them walking, boom, and they interviewed them. And then walking to the next house, and they interviewed them. And then they ended the story with that love seat with all 6 couples, one of which is a widow right now, because one passed away. And it was just such a strong way to deliver a story. Just interesting, thinking out of the box. How can I tell this, not only in an informational way, but an emotional way? These concepts. But you got to think of that. They didn't just happen to have a couch in their car.
That
you know?
sounds very creative.
Yeah.
The way they were able to do that. A lot of times, what I would do, I would like Google the address. You know, sometimes you'd be surprised. You Google the name if you have a name, and you'd be surprised maybe that person had priors. Once I got later in my career, that I went deeper. I became more experienced. I would go into records, right? So their criminal records, right? I would try to find what is there and see if you can tie anything. Of course, you have to make sure then that quick moment that you can verify that before you go and report it. But there's a lot of information, obviously, today on the internet. We still have to be so careful, but it's there. So even Googling an address can give you a lot of insight.
But you also, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Please.
You know, like even like a news, like a fire, right? You're also doing research. Where's the best place to go to get the shot that I want to get, where I can go and get a good shot of it? You know, what nat sound pops? What sounds can I start getting that will really push my story further as well and engulf like all of the, like mine should be racing.
Something I hear you mentioning and referring to a lot is the cameraman or your camera woman for that matter. But it's incredible how they're really producers as well. And you can tap into their knowledge of the field, knowledge of experience. Talk to me about that partnership and how important that is in pre-production, because you've mentioned it, and I just want to make sure I highlight it.
Oh, it's huge, right? You got to be on the same page. For the people who've seen my lessons, I do a story Steve Hartman did when he did Everybody Has a Story, and he did it on this little boy who's 5, right? And he immediately, and his camera person, identified that this kid was rambunctious. So they had this one shot of the kid in the pew. You don't even see his face. All you see is feet just wiggling on the pew. Like, nobody gets that shot unless they think about what the story's about emotionally, and that's such a great shot. And that was discussed, I'm sure, right? And, you know, they talked about, he knew, they were on the same page. This is what my story's about. And your camera person should be on the same page as well, thinking, what are the visuals that I need to show to not only give the information, but the emotion of the story, right? Also listening during the interview. They talk about the checklist, well, you need a shot of that, or whatever, you know?
I'm always going to squeeze to the last moment. Mia, I know we have 1 minute left, but this is what I like to do. So what can you tell us about film and documentary preparing for those? Because I know there's a lot of students here that maybe are looking at those fields.
Yeah, I want you to think of documentaries, first of all, like a film that you don't have as much control of. It's not a news feature story. Right? We're doing establishing shots. We're doing, like we talk about having it breathe, that kind of stuff. We're thinking structurally. Am I in the story? Am I having a voiceover? How, you know, what are my sections? You're really planning it out. You're doing a paper edit before you even start, right? And then film, of course, where kids slack off again, is in the pre-production, right? They want to just go out and shoot it. They might write a script. They're pretty good at that. But when it takes storyboarding and shot listing, that's where they start to fall off. And that's huge. You know, storyboarding makes you sit down and visualize your film in like a comic strip. Like, you know exactly what you're doing. Then you start thinking, what shots would be most effective for this? Like you're not at the level to just wing it on the set with all your friends or crew sitting there waiting, right? No, you want to be prepared. I've never walked on a set without a rundown, a script, a shot list, whatever, some kind of preparation. And sometimes kids think they don't have to do that. Right? They just want to do it. Well, okay, you'll do it, but it's not going to be what it could have been if you didn't sit down with your crew and really plan it out and think it out, and then decide, what do I need? All my another list: the props, the costumes, the locations. What order do I shoot them in that's most efficient? All of that is done in pre-production.
So much to think about, especially when you're speaking about film and documentaries. Thank you so much, Jim Warachi. Honestly, so valuable, this conversation from Beacon TV. Thank you for being with us.
Of course. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to remind you that you can ask him questions. So please, if you have questions, take advantage of that. Next, I'd like to introduce Omar Delgado. He's going to, oh my. Always a great presence, CCNN, here at these awards. Congratulations to all of you and to your team. Omar, so nice to see you. We go way back.
It's a pleasure.
We go way back from this organization.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I've known you for a couple of years already.
You're really amazing for all these students, but for those of you who don't know him, Omar Delgado is the Director of Educational Technology and Learning Development at Christopher Columbus High School, and advisor to CCNN Live, which you're going to be hearing a lot about this afternoon. I'm certain. He is here today to talk to us about using AI responsibly and leveraging it to enhance post-production. So I'm so happy to have you here, especially speaking about AI. Talk to us a little bit about yourself and tell us how you're wearing technology right now.
Well, like she said, my name's Omar Delgado. I'm very proud to be a Columbus class of 98 graduate. So not only do I get to teach my boys what it is to be a man of faith in Columbus, but I actually experienced it, which is unique, I think. But I think my most important job and the job that I love the most is being a father to my 2 little boys and a husband to my wife, who happens to be a TV production teacher as well for Somerset Academy Prep. So
He was that little guy. He came up to shake my hand. I was like, you have a leader here in the making. So wonderful. Congratulations for saying that as well. I really appreciate family first. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what are the challenges and what are the benefits of AI. I use it every day in my work to formulate questions, to get background, to learn like last minute details on my live radio show because it's really real time. But how do we use AI responsibly?
So I think what you're asking is, it's a very unique question, right? Because depending on what generation you're from, the answer is different. I'm a very young Gen Xer, older millennial, and I had a childhood that was analog. And then I had a adolescence that was very digital. So I had the best of both worlds, and I think that prepared me for the position I have tremendously, because I understand the importance of physically doing or researching our books. But I also know, like a lot of people don't know this, but I have a learning disability. Like I have extreme processing issues. I don't understand stuff as quickly as people think I do. And I grew up thinking I was dumb my whole life. I even have a poster in my classroom that says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, he'll grow up thinking it's stupid its entire life.
I just have to make a quick note because a lot of people with learning disabilities like dyslexia turn out to be great leaders because you find the way to make up for what you can't do and you become excellent. So I just want to say
Thank
that.
you. Well, trust me, I found ways to do anything I could because it wasn't easy for me. But when computers were introduced to me and technology, and I was able to bring that into a classroom, my whole perspective changed. I'll never forget being in Florida State and taking my special ed classes, and I was looking around going, no one sees this? Like, am I the only person? Because they were talking about me. And I changed. I'll never forget it. It was 2000. And I went from being a D student to being on the dean's list and an honor student, just from that one class. Wow. Because I was able to incorporate technology, but I understand the difference. So the thing that I think is the most dangerous about AI is the younger generation losing themselves, losing who they are. You can't rely on AI for everything. You have to critically think. If you master critically thinking before, then AI is an amazing tool.
Okay, so let's talk about critical thinking.
Yeah.
What is it and how do we develop it?
I think you fail fast, right?
Okay.
That's the best example. I tell all my boys that FAIL stands for first attempt in learning. And I put them in situations where I know they're gonna fail, but because I want them to learn from their mistakes. Some people think I'm crazy for this, but I mean, everyone has their own teaching styles.
It makes all the sense to me.
So once you learn how to fail and you critically think, all right, I should have done this, should have done that, then using artificial intelligence to enhance yourself is an amazing tool. What I see is older generations are afraid of it. People around my generation, they like it, but they're wary of it. And then my students they're totally engaged by it. Like, they don't know a world without it. And I'm always trying to balance out, that's good, but where's your voice? That's good, but how is this uniquely you? And it's a tough balance because it's like having the most ultimate superpower at your fingertips and saying, I can't use this.
All right, having discipline.
Yeah, discipline is key when you're using artificial
I'm
intelligence.
a user of AI, so I understand what you're saying, because you do have to kind of, temper it. And sometimes I have to correct it because it's not always right.
Well, that's a part of it also. If you don't have good AI teaching, like I'll tell them all the time, prompting is really big, but also understanding that what they're giving you is partially correct. You're gonna make it 100% correct by adding yourself or your own research. So there's ways of, I just tell everybody, be very wary. You have to use it because it's not going anywhere. And if you're afraid of it, I'm like, this is gonna destroy education, you're absolutely wrong. This is gonna enhance education, but the issue is the way we teach it has to be different. It can't be we're not allowed to use this. It's got to be you could use this in this aspect. So that's the dangers. The great part about it is if you know how to use it, things that would take you hours can now take minutes.
Tell me about it.
Right? So can I give you an example of one of the ways I taught my
Please.
boys? And this is for all the young journalists.
Please.
So especially like all of us have done competitions and stuff, and one of the largest ones is at the Student Television Network. We get 8 hours to make an 8-minute show. Well, I taught my boys in the middle schools that I mentor, all of them take out their phones and they do an audio recording of their interview. So the interview is great. This is just for the reporter, right? And they're just sitting there with an audio recording the interview. When they're leaving on the car ride home, they have the transcription already done right there on their phone. They get that transcription and they put it in Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, and they said, this is the point of my story. Give me a time code and the most impactful answers that were given. And a list comes out.
Oh, God. In my day, the worst part of anything was sitting there and having to transcribe an interview, and you'd put 0024
Right.
to 01. Look, me, oh, my
Yeah.
God, no. I had an intern once, Alex, she's on WSVN. Oh, my
Alex
God.
de Armas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex de Armas, who I love so much.
Yeah.
I made her do that when she was my intern. I felt so bad for her. I still
Yeah.
feel bad because now look what you're telling me. Insane
Yeah,
how
so
how
they get
times
to
change.
transcribe their whole interview from the car ride, from the interview
Insane.
home. And they sit down, and they might not use all of it, but can you imagine the advantage they have? They're going straight to those impactful moments. That's a great way of using AI. It's not thinking for you, it's just doing something that you would have done anyways.
The dirty
quicker.
work.
Yeah.
The real dirty
Exactly.
work. Give us another example of how students can use AI in production.
Okay, so this is something that I haven't even taught my boys yet, but I'm planning for next year. So ChatGPT just came out with a bunch of automations, right? And I'm always teaching them to look for stories. But as you can tell, I think social media is the best way to find stories. I mean, interesting feature stories, human interest stories are always coming around. So ChatGPT just came out with an automation. I just trained my AI to scan my social media.
Oh, my.
And when certain words come out, it gets separated for me. So instead of me looking for all these medias, every morning I wake up and I have a list of new possible
Okay, can you
stories.
tell us? Can you give us that trick? How do I do that?
Oh, that would be a whole other hour lesson of how to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But-
because I need it for certain subjects.
But yeah, I have my AI just making my job easier. So instead of me spending an hour, 2 hours
Hoping
fishing,
that the algorithm will bring it up.
I have a list for us. So that's how when we travel and we do all these competitions, my boys have an advantage there because I'm able to teach them this skill.
How do you see the future of AI, especially in media? How do you see it shaping the future of what we do?
I'm wearing it right now.
Tell us.
So I have my Meta glasses on, right? I could be recording this whole conversation right now. But what people don't realize, and this is what I tell, especially the teachers in the classroom, like if you're still giving paper tests that are multiple choice, what are we doing? Like this, it's so easy to cheat, right? And like I had students wearing these in school, and they're walking around recording their teachers, and then just recalling in their ear what they just saw. And Meta's already coming out with, it comes out next year, like the Iron Man glasses where they walk around and everything's popping up. So I can have your social media looking at you and seeing personal information come out. You think I have a regular glasses on, and I'm seeing everything I need to know about you. So imagine in media, if I'm here to interview someone and I'm seeing stuff real
you
time.
see written.
I could see it written. I could see turn-by-turn direction. Not here, not in these glasses.
Oh, okay.
No, but they're coming out, right? And then
Everything's coming.
yeah, and then my teachers are like, well, I'm just going to ban glasses. I'm like, oh, that's great. So if a kid can't see, you can't wear. No, and not only that, they're already working on making that contact lenses. So like, where are we going to stop?
Wow, we're
That's,
not.
It's
We're
not.
not. We're
Yeah.
going into Black Mirror.
Exactly.
I'm going over there.
Exactly. So just be prepared because the future is going to be, I tell people all the time, you critically think, right? But as teachers and educators, we can't be the gatekeepers of education anymore. We have to be the pathway, showing people how to connect
Facilitator.
themselves to where the information is.
The way shower.
Exactly,
To
exactly.
speak of
Yeah.
Jesus. I want to end this on the opposite, right? So we're talking about AI, and I want to go back to humanity. Let's take it to the other end. How important is it for us to speak to each other, to learn from each other, for the students to have conversations and to be human in the midst of this AI revolution?
Well, I think every teacher in here and every parent, the best thing you could have done is put your child in a media production journalism class because it forces them to learn how to communicate. Right? I have students that are no longer in journalism. They're lawyers, they're real estate agents, they're police officers, but the way they've gotten their job and moved up in the world is because they can communicate better than anyone else. And it's almost like a lost skill. Like These kids are always on their phone. They're never looking up. They don't know how to talk to each other without it. But any kid in here can walk into a room, a boardroom, a real estate agent, like selling a house, a lawyer trying to convince a jury, and they can do it in a way that no one else can because they've been trained since they were 14. That's so important. That humanity, that inner communication between people, that's going to be a superpower in a couple of years because people have lost it.
Exactly. Well, I wanted to end on that note. This has been an amuse-bouche, meaning un bocadito, a little taste.
A little bit.
Because we can definitely do a full hour or 2 or 3 or maybe
For sure.
a master series with you, Omar Delgado. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, thank you.
Appreciate you.
God bless you. What an honor having you here with us. Anyway, this is a lot of fun. Are we on time? We're good? Okay. Next, a lady after my own heart, because she does what I'm passionate about. I did so many things in journalism. I became an anchor at the end of my career. I do radio now, but the best thing was being a field reporter. Why? Because I got to meet people and learn about their stories and learn about humans. So Morgan Reiner, please come up. So Morgan is going to be speaking to us about breaking news blueprint, accurate information, confident delivery, earned trust. So valuable. Morgan Reiner is a reporter at CBS4 Miami, or CBS Miami, with experience covering breaking news and political stories across multiple markets. Her talk today is on field reporting under pressure, gathering accurate information, building trust, which is critical, your credibility, and delivering with confidence. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So when I said CBS4, it's not CBS4, it's CBS Miami because you work in different markets.
Yes.
You see? A little slip up made a big difference. Tell me, how did you get to Miami?
Well, Miami's home for me. It's where I grew up. It was a dream coming back here. Prior to coming to CBS News Miami, I was a political correspondent over in California. I worked for a company called Tegna, so I was based in the capital, but I also worked for a station in San Diego. And prior to that, I was a political reporter and general assignment reporter for Wink News, which is over on the west coast of Florida. And prior to that, University of Florida. And I will say so many of you in the room are way ahead of me when I was your age, because I didn't even know when I was in high school that you could study to do what I'm doing right now. I just thought they were lucky enough to end up on TV. I didn't realize that there was a pathway to do that until I got to college.
So where did you go to high school, just to know where you're from in South Florida?
Beach High, Miami Beach.
Miami Beach, how awesome. Okay, so you had a lot of fun. That's a good high school.
I met my husband there. We went to prom together.
Oh, there you go. He's not shy at all. Okay, so let's get into it. What is your priority when you get into a breaking news situation, when you arrive on the scene? What's priority number one?
Informing everyone who's watching about the safety aspect. That's our number one job when I'm going to a crime scene. And I go to a crime scene almost every single day. I'm the morning reporter for CBS Miami, so I'm live every half hour almost from 5 a.m. until noon. And a lot of people like to commit crimes overnight in the dark hours. And so I'm covering breaking news almost every single day. And it's a shooting, a stabbing, a fire. And so my number one priority as a reporter is to let the community know if they are safe, if there is a shooter on the run, or someone who did something bad that's still out there. And
so if the person's arrested, that's the first thing you're going to tell me.
That's the first thing I'm going to say. There's no threat to the public. Because that's our job as journalists, is to keep everyone safe. Otherwise, why do they necessarily care about watching? Why are they tuning in so much to watch if it doesn't affect them? So that's our job, is to keep everyone safe.
That's so awesome, because when we were speaking with Jim about being prepared, it was like a little bit of a different angle, because here now we're like, it's interesting how everyone brings their own perspective and their own priorities to the story. So how do you verify information so quickly? Like when you're out there, how are you able to verify what's going on and the speed of the moment?
That will be one of the biggest challenges you face out in the field. Having no information and nothing verified.
At 5 a.m.
At 5 a.m. When I graduated from the University of Florida, I had only had one live shot experience, one, and it was planned. I probably practiced for an hour before I did that live shot. So when I got to Wink News in Fort Myers and they sent me out to my first breaking news scene, it was a police chase that ended up in a crash, and I got to the scene and the producer was like, "Can you go live?" I said no. I said, I don't know anything. I don't have any information from police, from fire rescue. I don't necessarily know where I am yet in this market. And thankfully, the producers there, they saw a deer in a headlight, and they gave me the grace and said, okay, We won't take you live today. That was the first and the only time that's ever happened, because I got on the phone with my mentor after and I said, what am I supposed to do if I have zero information? It's still a story. It's still impacting a lot of people. There are still roads that are closed. There's still potential harm to people out there, and it's still a story. So what you do is you try and reach out to all the different police agencies, the county, the city, fire rescue, you name it, but you can't count on that, especially at 5 a.m. So you report on what you're seeing. There's crime scene tape up. If it was a shooting, are there bullet casings on the floor? Is there a body bag on the ground, meaning it's a death investigation? Did the crime scene van show up? Did the medical examiner show up? You do reporting based off of what you're seeing at that point, and then the second big, or arguably the first best thing you're gonna get at a scene is a witness. Because once you get a witness who's seen it all, then there you go.
That's the gold. We were having conversations before, and it's always that one person that's going to make your story. There's that one person that shows up that really turns everything into gold, literally. Okay, so let's go now to, let me check my notes. This trust. So this is so important, right? Your credibility. Trust with the audience, but trust with your sources, because you have to keep it real with your sources as well. Tell me how you build that.
It's probably one of the most important things you're going to have in this industry. I still call it a Rolodex of contacts. Someone that you can call if you're reporting on something crime-related or political. As you've heard, I was a political correspondent, so I have a ton of political contacts, and it's all about building that trust with them. If you tell them the story is going to be about one thing, of course, you have to give yourself the opportunity to ask other questions if something comes up ahead of time. But the second you do something wrong to a contact, they're never going to talk to you again. And so you have to build that trust with the contacts in order to keep doing stories with those people. And it's not just the political professionals that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that you meet out on the streets. Those are contacts too. You're probably going to go to the same neighborhood and do a story in the same neighborhood more than once. And so you have to be nice to every single person that you meet. You have to dig into whatever it is that they're telling you and not just trust on the first words that they're saying that something is true, because I can't even tell you how many times someone has said something to me.
That's happened
and then
to me.
I've gone and done research and that wasn't true. So smile, be nice, but never take something at face value. Always do your job as a journalist and dig into it.
And then police, right? So sometimes the police might give you a little tidbit, but they're saying, don't say that yet, and you definitely don't want to burn that type of contact.
No, you don't. I had an agency send me a video. It was very visual video, and we were going to put it on the news. It was going to be a great story. And then they messaged me after saying, actually, please don't air that. There's something in this video we're not supposed to show. Now, technically, they already gave us the video. Could the station have run with it? Would certain stations run with it? I'm sure. But the last thing you want to do is burn the bridges, because that's the person that you get the information from for every other story. So I said, no problem. I'm not in this industry to get anyone in trouble in that way. Of course, you can do investigations and uncover certain things. But with public information officers, they are your go-to for a million other stories. And so when they said, please don't run that, I told my managers right away. It wasn't a breaking news story. It wasn't going to make a difference to anyone watching the news. So we decided not to run it.
So, but those are kind of difficult, they're very difficult decisions, because this is ethics. We're going into ethics, right? Like what you air, what you don't air, who do you respect, or sometimes people will give you something and then back out, and you know you're going to air it anyway, because it depends. There's certain cases.
Yes.
Talk to me about the ethics, and that this is a slippery slope, if you will.
It is. That's why you have to be very clear from the beginning that you are who you are. You have to say you are a journalist. You have to say that this will be on TV, this will be on camera, so that there is no hiding your intentions at all. Like the other day, I walked into a big corporate store that was right on the corner of an intersection where there was a deadly crash. And normally this big corporation doesn't hand out surveillance video. But I walked in, because you always have to ask. Even if you know the answer ahead of time is going to be no, you have to ask. I walked in and I said, I'm a reporter with CBS News Miami. can I see the surveillance video? Or are you okay showing the news? Because sometimes your organization doesn't do that. And the employee was so forthcoming. We have the whole thing on video. She brought me to the back. She showed me the surveillance video. And so we ran with it because I was very open and upfront from the beginning that I was a journalist and that this would be on TV. And then all the other stations started walking in and asking for that same surveillance video. And the person started saying, oh, you know what, we're not actually supposed to give out this video. We're not going to hand it out anymore.
But you already had it.
But I already had it, and I was very clear from the beginning what my intentions were, and it would be on TV. And so at that point, we made the decision that the video is still going to run.
Okay, I have 2 questions in 1 minute, so let's do a 30-second quick round. Number one, we know there's a lot of pressure. You have those producers saying, let's go live. How do you maintain your composure with the station and with the audience when you're in these breaking news situations?
Maintain my composure. I will say that if you get the butterflies in your stomach, that's a good thing.
Yes.
If the job was so easy, it'd be boring. So it's okay to get a little bit nervous, and just, you can pretend like no one's watching, but I think it's more fun to pretend people are watching. Because when I'm out in the field, no one is actually watching. It's just me and my photographer and the cameraman. And I always like to think of it as show and tell, and I also don't think of myself as the story. So I step going on around me. So I maintain my composure for a few seconds, and then I step out of the way and let the cameraman do his thing.
You're so good. We're so honored to have you. But I did have one last question. What advice do you have for students that want to get into breaking news reporting?
Well, you're doing the right thing by being here. So that's step 1. Step 2, if you want to be on breaking news, I think start out in a market. I know that there are a lot of people that don't want to start out in those small markets, but that's how you get to a market like Miami. It's repetition. And like I told you, that deer in the headlight story, starting off in a smaller market is so important. That's where you get to learn and grow, and then you can end up in a market here like Miami, and you'll never have to tell your producer that you can't go live because you don't know or you don't have any information to go live with.
Morgan Reiner from Miami Beach and CBS Miami. Thank you so much. What an honor to have you here. What a great example. What a great person to learn from. I myself have learned a lot from her. Awesome. My next guest, I'm super excited about, I have to tell you, Katie Engelson. Katie on the edge of the ice. So she is a rinkside reporter. Katie Engelson is a rinkside reporter for the Florida Panthers with extensive experience covering professional and collegiate sports. Her angle today is capturing the energy of live sports and delivering compelling storytelling in real time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you all about my job.
And I just want to let you all know that I'm going to have all of the contacts for the professionals later. So make sure that you look out for that. If you want to keep in touch, I would love you to check out these reporters, the ones that are on TV, Morgan and Katie, because to watch you in action is really something. Tell us how you got into sports reporting.
Sure. So I'm actually from Parkland, Florida, born and raised. I went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Go Raiders. I don't know if anyone went to St. Thomas in here. And then went to the University of Alabama. So I've been kind of surrounded by sports, football in particular. And growing up in Parkland, grew up going to Florida Panthers games. So I always had this passion just being around sports. I also grew up a competitive baton twirler. So that's why I went to Alabama. I was a University of Alabama Crimsonette, which is a pretty big deal at Alabama. We performed at all the football games. So I knew that I wanted to be in sports in some capacity, just being around it, and had a few internships. Ultimately led me to this job now, but I did start out in Waco, Texas, in local news, working for the ABC affiliate, and going off of what Morgan said, that was so beneficial and makes me appreciate my job even more now because it was a challenge. And then from there, I was in Dallas for 4 years, working for the regional sports network there. It was then Fox Sports Southwest, and then it changed over to Bally Sports Southwest, but I was doing a little bit of everything for the teams that we had partnerships with as a reporter. and host. And then I've been with the Panthers now for, gosh, I just finished my 4th season. So it's been
Wow.
pretty awesome.
Pretty cool. And you've had nice seasons.
Yes, 3 straight trips to the Stanley Cup final, back-to-back cups. It's been great.
Wow. And it's good that you have this year too, because, you know, as we were speaking about failure, the importance of failure, right? We
A
learn
nice long
lot.
off season,
I'm
which
sure
will be
a challenge-
nice.
I'm sure it was a challenge for you as a reporter because the vibe was a little different, but you still had to make it exciting.
That's a very good point. I will say yes, but our culture with our team is so great that the vibe all around was still pretty optimistic. We had so many injuries this year, and so I think we're going to come back even stronger next year. And I think the players really focused on that, and it helps being the reporter for the team when the vibe is good. But we have a really good culture, and that stems from our management, our head coach, and ownership.
Okay, here goes my deep questions because, you know, I'm a journalist. How do you make it look so easy?
Well,
How
that's
do you make
kind.
that look so easy? Because I know it's not.
I think a lot of it stems from preparation. 10% of our job is essentially on television and what you see during Panthers broadcasts, but the other 90% comes from preparation. We have practice almost every day. We have very few off days during the regular season.
And you're there?
Yes. I don't have to attend every practice, but I do for the most part just to be around the players and show face. A lot of, that's very important. And just talking to players during media availability, going into the locker rooms, and that's where you get your really good stories as well. And then on game days, people think we just show up to the game and we're ready to be on television, but it's so much more than that. We wake up, we have morning skate, which is another practice in the morning where there's media availability. That's about an hour and a half, and then I come home, I do my prep work, send my producer my storylines. I come up with about 10, and typically we'll get in about 4 during the game. One
When we
each
talk about
period.
storyline, what do you mean? Like each player, what's been happening, the drama?
Sure. So I'll come up with 10 different storylines. I would say like the biggest stories that are happening around the team, or also some human interest stories, because that's, to me, what is so much fun about my job is humanizing the players that we get to cover. So that is all about, cultivating those relationships. That's where you find out. We had one player who has type 1 diabetes. So that was an example of one of the stories, and we only have 30 seconds in game coming out of a commercial break to share that story when, I do an interview with him and it's 10 minutes long, but I have to tell that story in 30 seconds. So that's an example of one story. But each period, during our broadcast, in addition to all the interviews that I do as well.
So even though they're so short, there really is a lot of preparation. And I imagine our conversation is going to touch on a lot of the points that we already had spoken about. How do you, okay, so when I say it looks so easy, you see, I knew that was a good question because I didn't have any idea of everything that you're telling me, because you do make it's obviously, it's fun, it looks really cool, but I do realize that there has to be some kind of work behind it because it does feel like substance. It doesn't feel like fluff when I see you.
Thank you.
What makes sports reporting different than other types of, like, say, news reporting?
That's a very good question. I mean, it is really fun. For the most part, we're not covering sad stories. I quickly realized I wanted to get into sports is because I actually had a news internship when I was in college, and I was way too emotional, and I just couldn't handle some of the sad stuff. It was really hard on me. And growing up in sports as a sports fan, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try a sports internship, see what that's like, and I quickly realized that was my passion. So I would say it is more fun. You're covering more fun events if you're a sports fan, but it's the best. It's awesome. I love it.
So what skills do you think are most valuable to you? What makes your job possible, and how do you shine most?
Public speaking, for sure, is helpful, although I do feel like speaking in front of groups is very different than speaking in front of a camera.
It's harder.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because they're human heartbeats.
Like seeing you all compared to just talking into a camera, I don't think about all the people that are watching, kind of what Morgan said as well. Reporters that I would look up to, and I still do, but I was told, there's only one Katie Engelson, so make sure to be that person rather than someone else you're trying to emulate. And
Be
that was really
authentic.
helpful. Yes.
Yeah, authenticity,
Yes.
especially in today's world with social media, people can see right through us, right? So I often talk about when I was on TV, it was like, I say it in Spanish, encartonada, like you're in a box, like boxed, because you're being like this, and that's not the style any longer. You have to be you. Tell me about your relationship with the athletes, and how does that work? Are they always as amicable and ready to speak to you, or are there times where they're maybe upset and emotional as well? Testosterone, youth, sports, I imagine. How are those relationships built?
Sure. I think comparing my fourth season to my first season was very fresh. I was meeting everyone kind of for the first time. Now we've had players that have been there for quite some time, so I've really been able to develop those relationships. And all of that stems from being around the team and just, essentially being around, having conversations. They know that you're not going to try to trick them with your questions. That can sometimes be a thing.
Okay, so we go back to credibility, just like with Morgan.
Yes.
These are
similarities.
I feel like because you're the last one, we're able to encapsulate all the lessons that we've been able to speak about, which are really basics. So we've gotten a lot here. What advice do you have for someone that wants to get into what you do, sports reporting?
I would say be open-minded. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I'd be covering hockey, I probably would have said no. I'd be in football or the NFL or college football, but hockey has been the best. And also, my first job was in local television in Waco, Texas. When I was applying for jobs, I applied for about, hundreds of applications all over the place, very small markets. I knew going into it that it was going to be a challenge. I was going to be missing, holidays with my family. I'd be working, and it was a grind. I was a one-man band sports anchor reporter, so I was shooting all my content, running, to a football game, shooting that, coming back, editing those highlights, writing my scripts, and then having to be on air on top of it. So it was very challenging, but it makes me appreciate this job even more now, and I've learned so much. So I would say be open-minded as to where you're wanting to go. If you really have this dream and this passion within yourself and your heart, then it's so worth it.
But the future is there, and NFL might be on your horizon. Why not? Would that still be a dream for you?
Yes. I love hockey, though. It's my hometown team, the Florida Panthers, but I do have big goals and aspirations. So
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We have to keep dreaming. That's really important. So that's it. Anything else you want to add? I have 1 minute. I can't believe I ran out of questions for you about people. I was so excited to do this because I really love your work. I got to see you, and you really make everything look so easy. And I know it's not.
That's very kind. Thank you. I'm just so impressed with all of you. I realized I wanted to get into this industry at 11 years old when I was at Eagle Ridge Elementary in Coral Springs. We had a morning announcements team. And so it's awesome that you guys get to do this in high school. And I'm very impressed with all
Did
of
I ask you where you went to high school?
I went to St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. It's nice to have locals shining a bright light. Thank you so much, Katie. It's been such an honor to meet you. Again, we're going to have all the names up, so I'd love for you guys to jot down that information. And they all agreed, by the way, for you to contact them, follow them on social. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up for questions. We're going to have everyone come up. And I was looking at my time cues. So this is your opportunity. I always say whenever somebody offers you a microphone, and you can invite your people, you can invite your audiences to do this as well, speak your truth, ask questions, because it's really, really a privilege. And as you got to hear, these professionals are amazing. I myself have learned a lot and been incredibly entertained by their stories. So any questions, come on up. We have microphones. Please, right up here, this gentleman.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you guys for doing this for us. It's an awesome opportunity to talk to you all. My name is Alexis. I'm a student at the University of Florida, go Gators, and a proud Columbus alumni. So my question's for you, Katie, first. I know there are some changes happening in the media industry, specifically with FanDuel. What have conversations look like in-house when it comes to production of Florida Panther games, and how do you guys plan on moving forward with that?
So I'm just going to repeat the question for the sake of our streaming. So Alexis is asking what's the pre-production and what the conversations are behind the scenes before you go on.
Sure. So I know you mentioned FanDuel and obviously the regional sports networks. There's so much uncertainty, but we are very lucky with the Panthers. We're now with a new network called Scripps Sports, so it's on your local cable. You just essentially have to have a TV antenna to watch our broadcast. So our viewership has increased like 300% over the last 2 seasons, which has been awesome. We made the switch last season to Scripps Sports. But I'm sorry, can you ask your question one more time?
What are the conversations like?
Yeah, what do the conversations look like with regards to just like what the future of, I guess, more local television is? I know like the Heat have something similar going on, same with the Marlins. Like what exactly does the future of local sports pertain to you guys?
Sure. So I think a lot of teams, as you mentioned, the Heat, the Marlins as well, a lot of the teams are going in-house where they're forming partnerships with local stations. I think the Miami Heat has a few games on one of the local television because it just comes to accessibility and who's able to watch those channels. Whereas with the regional sports networks, there were a lot of disputes with some of the television stations. I'm not too well versed to speak about this, but that's pretty much what I've gathered when it comes to all of that. So to watch your favorite teams, there will always be a way to do that. It just may look a little bit different. A lot of teams are coming up with apps. So we have the Panthers Plus app as well. So it's a monthly subscription where you can watch our games. So there's different ways to watch. And I think it's interesting because those regional sports networks are kind of going away, but there's always going to be a way to watch your favorite team on television.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Alexis, for the question. Next, here we go, right here in the middle of the audience.
Hi, firstly, thank you very much for speaking. This was amazing. My name is Guilherme de Domenico. I'm a student at Lynn University, and my question is for Jim. So I know you were talking about how students sometimes come not too prepared to like do stories, but I want to touch on the opposite subject, which are like students who overthink, which I think I'm definitely a victim to that. What advice would you give to students who, for example, go to do a story and that is like big and complicated, and every person you interview, you feel like there's so many good sound bites? Like, what advice would you give to a student like that?
First is to have a strong focus to your story. When you have that, it eliminates some things that you might think are part of the story, but it doesn't fit your focus. That'll actually make it easier. You know, I'm always telling kids, yeah, it's hard to find that focus, right? A good one. But once you have it, it makes everything else easier because that story just got smaller and more defined, and your questions got clearer in your mind of what you're going to ask. And I don't know what your guys and how you go about it, but when I talk about questions, I never think about questions. I always think about what would I love someone to say. And then I reverse engineer it. You know what I mean? And if you know what your focus is and what you want to get from that person, it's so much easier to think of the question. Then you're also not sitting there on your sheet, which some of you guys do, which you shouldn't. It should be a conversation. But I think that's the best advice. That'll make the story a little bit clearer to you as well, so you know what questions or what answers you want to hear if you have a good, strong focus. It's when you're wandering and not have a clear idea of what you want to do is that you have challenges, right? Then you have too much, because you didn't know, right? And you're just fishing the entire time. So as soon as you can lock in a focus, I think that's the best advice.
All right, thank you.
Any one of you want to address that question?
I think there's always going to be one moment that might stick out more than the others, especially if it's an emotional story and there's a moment where they choke up. Those, to me, end up resonating with the audience a lot more. So sometimes you get a lot and you think, I don't know how I'm going to condense this down into 1:30 or 2 minutes. You will find a way, and just pick, like he said, the soundbite that has to do most with the focus of the story, but also the one that tugs at the heartstring the most.
I'm going to go ahead and give my 2 cents, if you don't mind. In my time, they had a terrible expression, so please, if you're sensitive, don't kill me. But they said, you have to learn to kill the babies. You have to learn to kill the babies, because when you go out there and you have so much good stuff, you know, you want to play all of it, but you can't. You have to pick the best, and you have to learn to sacrifice those gems that you collected. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard. You have 5 great interviews and everyone is great, but you have to try to, that's it. You have to kill the babies, and that's the hardest thing, obviously. It's a horrible expression. Do you guys remember that? Oh, God, Jim. I don't know. You never heard that? Oh, Lord, it's ugly, but there you go. That's how hard it is. But that's why it's difficult to digest. It's exactly what it is. Anyway, I hope it helped. Any other questions? There we go, right here. Oh, here we go. We'll get right to you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us and giving your perspective. It was very insightful. My name is Swanson Gibson Jr. I'm a student journalist at Lynn University. And my question is for Katie, you being in sports. I wanted to know, with you allocating so much energy and time to your craft, producing quality work, how do you find that balance in terms of producing that work, being fully immersed while also taking care of your mental and physical wellness? Because it could be daunting being in that fast-paced kind of environment.
That's a very good question, because during the season it is go, go, go. I travel with the team. We have games, we have practice, so we don't have too many off days. But I can truly say that I love my job so much. I love who I work with. I see, gosh, my coworkers, Randy and Goldie, our analyst and play-by-play, far more than my parents, because I'm with them so much. So that helps, and I do feel like working in a really good, healthy environment is a big part of that. But when I do get some free time, I like to explore different cities that we get to travel to, different restaurants, love good food, love sightseeing and seeing the different attractions, so that helps. But I'm really lucky that I work for a team that has such a good culture, and I work with some great people, which helps all of that. But that's a very good question, because it is a grind. And now I have 5 months off, so it'll be great.
I think a work-life balance is very important, but I also think that you have to be realistic, and if you have goals, you have to be obsessed with what you do. And there's no balance when you're obsessed. So it's very difficult for me to see young people say that and then complain that they're not achieving their goals because everything is not balanced. I love looking at people that were amazing throughout history, like Marcus Aurelius to Kobe Bryant, right? And my kids will tell you I quote Kobe all the time, and I can't stand the Lakers. I'm a huge Heat fan, but I love Kobe Bryant because he was obsessed with the pursuit of perfection, and there's no balance there. So you have to be mentally tough before you do, especially a job like this, understanding that there's going to be a lot of sacrifices. Like Morgan was saying, like you have to understand there's going to be holidays, you're going to be working, right? There's going to be on Christmas, if you're an NBA reporter, you're going to be working on those days. And that has to be part of your preparation, because if it's not, then you got to really consider if this is the area of expertise you want to go into. I try to teach my kids all the time, and a lot of people think that I'm very overbearing when I say this, but we try to be perfect, knowing that we're never going to be there. But the journey to that is where you get great at what you're supposed to do.
I tell you, it ain't for the lighthearted, this career. It ain't for the lighthearted, is part of my grammar. I think we have another question right around here. Gentlemen? There we go.
Hi, Morgan. I'm a senior at the University of Florida, and I graduate next week. I'm starting my first TV job in 2 months, so I want to know what's your best advice about getting integrated to a community that you have no experience being in before when you start in TV.
Social media. Go on all of the community Facebook pages. That's how you're going to find so many different stories about the community that you don't know anything about. And if you can get there a week before your job starts, sit down with all the public information officers, have coffee with them before you start your job. That way, when it comes down to doing a story, you know what area you're in, you know what public information officer, which department you should be reaching out to, and then get to know people. I mean, when I moved to California and I didn't know anyone in the Sacramento area, I went out and had froyo by myself. I went to have dinner by myself, and I would meet so many different people in the community, and that's how you start building sources and building story ideas. But even like here in South Florida, I'm on all the different Facebook pages, like Lost and Found Pets of Miami. I've had 3 different story ideas come out of that. Like, people that have abandoned their dogs, or a dog rescue that's doing incredible work. There's so many different ways on social media to find those basic story ideas and start building contacts.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Knoxville, Tennessee at WBIR-TV.
Well, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. And I hope we see you back. I hope we see you back in town when you're ready, or riper. Next question. I know we had a young man. Oh, here we go. Oh, you decide, microphone lady.
Hi guys, thank you so much again for coming here and telling us about all your experiences and your advice. I'm Marcos Montesino. I'm from CCNN Live. I'm a student journalist, and my question is for Morgan and Katie. The broadcast journalism field is consistently becoming more competitive every year. I wanted to ask how you guys were able to set yourselves apart and create that exposure for yourselves from the rest of the competition.
Sure. That's a very good question. I think this industry is so subjective. All it takes really is one person to say yes, and then you have your foot in the door. But I think the biggest thing, and this is kind of what happened with my Panthers job, is cultivating relationships, sending emails to executive producers or news directors at local stations. When I was in college, I set up a meeting with the executive producer who originally hired me for the Florida Panthers position, and I was 22 years old, and he gave me a tour of the Bally Sports Studio, and we stayed in touch ever since. At that point, there were no opportunities available for me. I mean, I was 22 out of college. I had no experience, but he said, stay in touch, and if anything opens up, we'll see kind of what would be a good fit. And so I did, and gosh, 6 years later, this opportunity presented itself, and they reached out to me. So I would say cultivating those relationships, staying on top of things, sending emails is really, really important.
Email's definitely important. When I was graduating from my very first TV market, I was emailing all the news directors here in Miami, knowing they probably wouldn't hire me after my first market, telling them I was available, let's have coffee, let's sit down. And eventually, when I was ready to come to Miami, they answered the call. Whether or not they hired me, different story, but eventually all it takes is one person to say yes. And I will say, on top of those emails, interning is so important. I was an intern at Channel 7 here in Miami when I was in college. I was also an intern at the Today Show when I was in college. And the connections that you make will stick with you for the rest of your career. This is such a small industry. Like the mentor that I had in my first market, he's now a manager here at Channel 10. So you will continue to talk to the people that you meet throughout your career, and it is a very small industry.
Please, Jim, please. Thank you.
There's a couple things that I'm always telling students, and they've probably heard this before, and it's kind of in reference to this. And guard your reputation with your life. She says it's a small industry. It really is. You've got, you do one good thing, 2 people hear about it. You do one really bad thing, everyone around is going to hear about it. So guard your reputation with your life. And also surround yourself with motivated people. That is a life lesson that everyone's shaking their head, yes, because we know that we're older, right? Motivated people lift you up, and unmotivated people drag you down. And that's in your school, that's in your class, that's in your program, that's all everywhere. If you won't even realize that you're doing things because you're just around people. That's just what we do. We intern, we send emails, we go that extra mile. So those are good life lessons to remember.
And that's true for any field, what you've just mentioned.
Not only that, but networking amongst yourselves. Like you can have a coworker or a student right now that could be your boss in 10 years. And because you were cool with them as a sophomore in high school, that ends up getting you a job in 10 years. It's amazing how many times I've seen that happen throughout my career.
Excellent. Thank you for the question. Who's next? We have a few minutes, so I'm really excited to hear what your questions are. Awesome. I love to hear what you're curious about.
Thanks. Hi, I'm on this side of the other side. Hey. My name is Jordan Menace. I'm a sophomore at the University of Miami, and my question's actually for Ms. Reiner. So I'm curious, taking everything that's going on into consideration with how divisive things have gotten and how polarized everything seems to be, how have you taken account of this new reality and become an unbiased and trustable source for the public that you're reporting to?
50% of the people are always going to hate what you say sometimes. As a political reporter, I can say that. When I first started off as a political reporter in Fort Myers, my very first political story that I did, I made a mistake and I read all the comments. And all the comments, there was a mix of both. They said, oh, it was the 2020 election. Oh, she loves Biden. Oh, she loves Trump. And so if you're getting the same type, or you're getting both of those comments on the same story, it means you're doing something right. There's always going to be people that don't necessarily, they find one thing in your story and they'll put those comments in there, but you always have to make sure you're giving both sides the opportunity to talk in a story. It's not your job to tell people what they should think, and that's how you have to separate yourself from the story. You can tell them what's happening and they can form their own opinions from that, but you never want to guide a story and let people or tell people how they should think about something. That's something that they can do on their own. And that's something that I carried with me throughout my career. Is I read comments now and they don't hurt me as much as that very first story, but definitely always make sure you're including both sides. And it's possible that the second side won't get back to you, but you have to be clear in the process storytelling of it. Did you reach out to them? Include that in there. How many times did you reach out to them? Include that in there. Did you knock on their door? Did you send an email? Did you call them? I did a story at the height of COVID, and there was a city council member, or city council as a whole wasn't addressing COVID. And so I called the council members every single day, showed up to their office every single day, recorded the process. So even if they weren't getting back to me, that was part of the story.
Thank you for the question. I have to be honest, it gives me hope for the future. The fact that you're asking that really gives me hope for the future. So thank you and good luck in your career. Okay, next question.
Hi, my name is Lucas Batalla. I'm graduating from Christopher Columbus High School. I'm in CCNN. My question is for whoever would like to answer. As of right now, I'm trying to kind of build my personal brand, and I want to know what you guys, as me who's a young adult, what are some things I can do now to kind of build my brand and to kind of expose myself to people around my community?
Everyone go follow him. Que pasa Batalla on Instagram. I'm going to hand this over to you guys.
The question was about building your brand?
Yeah.
And do you want to work in news or sports, or what kind of industry? So I think social media is a great tool to do interviews or anything that's what you want to do. Blogging, making TikToks. There's so many ways to show people just kind of your online portfolio without having the access to like Florida Panthers players, or if you want to do sports, give your takes on a certain game, or I don't know, that's kind of what I would say to do. But social media is such a great tool now, and so many people are getting jobs, and there's so many jobs within social media as well, if that's the route that you want to go. But I would say just continuing to make content. You hear people like influencers, which is a totally another thing, but they say, posting every day, and it can be a little cringy and people will make comments and judge you, but it pays off in the long run. So just continue to showcase yourself in the best light, and there's so many different ways to do that now with social media.
I've told him this 100 times, so I'm going to tell everyone else in the audience. Grab your camera and post every day. And find your niche. Like one of the things we were talking about, Alex de Armas, right? What I love that she does every single morning is she goes into her dressing room and she does her own rundown of the news every single day. And I watch it every single day. And if you post every single day, either on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, in a year, you're gonna have your brand built, and you'll probably be making some kind of money off it whatsoever, which will help you with your first job. Because if you can go into a station and say, hey, I have 150,000 followers on TikTok, don't you think they're going to want you to represent them? But building that brand takes you being consistent and every single day being disciplined to post something every single day and find your niche. Whether you want to do sports, talk about sports every day. You want to be a chef, cook something online every single day. You want to be a news reporter, talk about the news every day. And before the question you were saying, I want to just jump into it. You could be an activist or you could be a journalist, but you can't be both, right? So like, if you want someone to look up to, I think is one of the best of all time, Walter Cronkite. Like, he just told you the news and got off, and he didn't have anything else to do with it. And also, if you want to find people that could to motivate you, look at your local news. because they're going to tell you the news the right way, and the more national you get, you might get bias. So if you want to find mentors, look, these are your mentors right here, because they're going to tell you news like Walter Cronkite did.
Great advice. One more question before we have to wrap this up. You're the lucky last questioner.
Hello. I'm back
Hello.
here.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you to the pros for the insightful information. My name is Jean Santiago. I'm from the Universidad de Puerto Rico en Arecibo.
Boricua's in the house.
Yeah. I'm a student in production and direction. And my question is for Omar. It has to do with AI. I do a lot of things with my hands. And I love to draw. And when it comes to art, it's something that I do traditionally. And I've done it all my life. The pre-production is pretty much the foundation of any film or documentary or any work that you're doing that has to do with communications. And with the storyboarding itself, well, it's something that I'm in love with. And I feel like AI is, well, you know, with its rise, is taking over that. And I feel like right now, or maybe in a few years, you could be able to generate the storyboard and the script itself, which I've seen. I want to know, what do you think about that as a professor? If you see that work, what do you think? How would that affect this field in a few years when it comes to the pre-production itself, when it comes to doing scripts and storyboarding? Because I feel like AI is taking over that, and I don't mean it like in a bad way. It could also be in a very positive way as well. What do you think?
I'm going to answer your question with a question, okay? If you don't mind. What's your favorite movie?
Wow. Right now, I feel like I am between Gladiator and Pig. I don't know, Pig.
Awesome. Gladiator.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, you knocked that out of the park. Great movie, right? That came from someone's brain. Someone that loves history decided to write that story, right? That is going to go down in history as one of the great, I love Gladiator, one of the greatest films ever, right? What's the problem with the industry right now? That we're getting these cookie cutter movies. It's superheroes, it's remakes, it's all that stuff, okay? Keep on doing what you're doing, and you're going to make the next Gladiator. Keep on your track, and you're going to be the person that's going to bring this whole, because everything goes in waves. At 46, I'll tell you right now that the pendulum always swings back, right? And if you stay the course, keep on writing your scripts, keep on storyboarding, it's going to come back to you, and you're going to be seen in a couple years as this genius, a pioneer, when all you did was just stay your course. One of the greatest things I've ever heard was Lin-Manuel Miranda. He went to this prestigious high school with a bunch of famous actors and producers, and they were like, how do you stand out? And he's, well, I was in school with actors that wanted to be producers and directors that wanted to be on camera. And I just stayed in my lane. I wanted to do Broadway. I wanted to do musicals. And I stayed there, and I became an expert at it. And by the time the pendulum came back, he was so far ahead of everyone else, it didn't matter. AI is not going anywhere, man. But like what you have inside of you, that is, no one's going to take that away from you. And if you master that, you're young. So in about 10 years, you're going to see the fruits of your labor come back. I promise you that.
Okay, let's hope.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Can I just
What a way to end this. I'm moved. Like, I feel moved.
Can I just
Jim
add something?
Garashi.
Yeah, just real quick. Nothing original is coming from AI. It's just grabbing from everything. So nothing original is ever going to come from there. I shouldn't say ever. But as far as storyboarding scripts, I see that as two different things. Like the script, it's got to come from you if it's going to be impactful. But yeah, the storyboard is probably going to move that way, right? Because that's the assistant to what's being creative. So in all honesty, yeah, I think storyboards are going to move that way. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do about that because that's helping you. It's not creating it, it's assisting you, right? That's my thoughts on that.
Jim Garashi, Omar Delgado, Morgan Reiner, and Katie Engelson. What an honor. And you. What an awesome audience you have been. What an incredible panel. I learned a lot. I'm inspired. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go on that social media and brand myself higher than I already am. Why not? We can all be inspired and we can all be better each day. I want to let you know that it has been an incredible honor here is the contact information I promised you. So please stay in touch. Please keep asking questions. You're all so bright. Everyone that spoke speaks so beautifully. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations to all the nominees. Here's how it's going to go. We are going to take a short break. We're going to ask you all to exit the room so we can prepare, but you're welcome to enjoy some refreshments. And then the moment we've all been waiting for, the NATA Suncoast Chapter Student Production Awards. Can't wait to see who the winners are. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Keep dreaming, keep creating, and I'll see you next year.